Okay. I do. It's good to visit with one another.
Seems like I've noticed that a lot more funerals going on than I used to think they did. I know there's always been on, at my age, I have somebody around me that's I lost 5 of my graduating classes since the first year.
Good morning. So good to see all of you this morning. Someone asked me what I was doing. I said I haven't really checked up. I'm afraid to. Afraid something might have fallen off. Life is that way. When you get this age and older, you have to be happy that the Lord allowed you to live this long. And if you can move around, it's even better. I probably told you this once, I'll tell you again. My dad used to chastise me constantly about as hard as I worked in life. I never slowed down day and night a lot of times. He'd always say, hey, you need to slow down. I said, slow down, what for? I'm going to be completely worn out. When I go to the grave, there's not going to be any usable parts. Oh, that would be him. He would just walk off. But really, what is life about if you don't give it your all? And that's the key. I'd like to read this passage this morning. The chair is in my way. Let's see if I'm reading. My foot found it. 2 Peter 1, 5 through 8. For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness. To goodness, knowledge. To knowledge, self-control. Self-control, perseverance. To perseverance, godliness, and godliness, mutual affection. And what? 4-letter word that many people don't use anymore. Truly, properly. Love, L-O-V-E, love. Because when we love one another, that means we are emulating Jesus Christ's love. And that's what he's trying to project here in this little passage. We all need to be productive in teaching as much as we can. And not all of us can teach one-on-one, not all of us can teach a crowd. It's just a different individual. But in life, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Your way of life, the way you love people, the way you take care of people, the way you present yourself to other people, that speaks volumes. And I believe that's what he's wanting us to do here, is to be effective and productive in that area. Oftentimes we forget, or we don't take the time to study, or to read, or to converse with other people, or to shake their hand. You ever seen people walk in a building and not shake their hand? I visited a congregation one time, and I said, this is not Christ Church. There was not a soul that wanted to shake my hand.
Yep.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
You walked into the wrong place immediately, and Christ is not with you. That's a shame. Why would you want to be in a crowd of people that don't want to at least shake your hand and say, hi, how you doing? Are you doing okay today? Maybe they know something about you. maybe keep up with your health or something like that, if they make a comment. This interaction shows other people that they care. And that's why we're here, to do is love one another. And the whole world needs to see that. Those who visit need to see that, right? The key is here, we need to present ourselves a living sacrifice. Where's that found? I can't remember. Romans 12, my favorite book, Romans. One of my favorite books. Romans, it says volumes about how to be Christian and why it's so important to be baptized in Christ. People love to tear it up, though. I was trying to teach a class one day, and I was working on a lesson in Romans. The guy got up and left. You're reading that wrong. You're supposed to start at verse 10. I thought it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can get there sooner or later. But they start in the wrong place. Why? To destroy the true importance of Romans. So they want to make a statement. Oh, I was Christian. Okay. And said that you knew that and you announced your sin when that happened. No, I was Christian. So it's very confusing. And that is why they start in the wrong place studying on purpose. That's shame. It's a very huge shame. I want to finish the 2 Peter because I love it so. Or at least a couple more verses. For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness. I'm guilty. It took me a long time to pick that up and try to pick up some goodness every day. The goodness of the Word, the goodness of Christ, God's love for us. All these things we need to be thinking about. It's amazing to me why people don't see how much God loves us. He could have said on that day where he was pondering the destruction of humankind in verse 6 of Genesis. Y'all remember that? Remember that? To me, every time I read that passage, I think about, beep, man done gone. He was that angry. And rightly so. And you see here, he's showing us that we all need to learn and use these same words: self-control, perseverance. Perseverance is something else, isn't it? That means you have to tolerate somebody that you can't stand. Way they mistreat other people or whatever reason, or say statements that, yeah, you have to. As the old days we used to say, tough it up. Get a little tougher and go. Godliness. Why did he throw godliness in there? And so many versions do not capitalize that, do they? It should be. Anytime you use the word God, I think it'll be capitalized, don't you? Isn't he important? He's very important. So that means this word is important. So what does godliness mean then? Patient, kind, loving, all powerful, willing to help in times not so good. Just. understand that, and that speaks volume too. Because how many people know what just means? That's the challenge. And we may know what it means, but yet we don't practice it because we don't fully understand its value. It's important. And that's the challenge. Godliness to mutual affection. What's the mutual affection mean? Affection, not infection. Yeah, they skip once in a while up there. I have to knock them back in the ring. What is mutual affection mean?
Love one another.
Bingo. Love one another. How many people love your neighbor? How many love your co-workers? Some of the co-workers they really don't want to be loved. They don't want you to have anything to do with their life, but you need to exhibit.
That song was in common love.
That's right. You need to exhibit love. If you don't exhibit love, even to those who don't want it, how are they going to know who you are and what you're about and who is Jesus Christ?
How many people love their enemies?
You know, that took me years and years of beating up my body. Paul says buffeting my body. That took me years because I worked with some really bad people. You work in the oil field, building drilling rigs, working around those rig up managers, and the foul language that they use every second of every minute of every day. And you just, how do you love that person?
There's a lot of kids that do that today too.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it seems like it's the new
Common
language.
They make it common language.
Common language now, it's a new language.
It's become a new language because we've become acceptable to it.
There you go.
Society has let it creep in. And we can remember when the word was said on TV when we were growing up or when we first watched TV, they banned that show. There's several shows, if you go back and study in the early 50s, where they had to rewrite the script because they had one bad word.
What happened to the parents?
That's right.
I remember when they said, Junior, go over and push the button off.
Yeah.
You remember that?
That wouldn't have been the button, it'd have been
Well, depending on what type of TV you had. Ours was an antique. Usually some piece of, literally pick it up out of the junkyard and we tried to patch it up and make it work.
I remember when I was the remote.
That's
Yeah.
Yes.
Or the antenna turn. Go out and turn the antenna. That's about like holding a flashlight for daddy.
Oil.
We love somebody that's unlovable. That's not the kind of love that we have for everybody. I mean, in the Bible, there's different kinds of love.
Yeah.
But this love that we have should be for their soul.
That's right.
And
Amen.
if we want
That's the
to
key.
change it,
You don't want them to be in hell.
no, you don't want them to be there, and you want to change them, and sometimes you can just by being an example of not returning bad for bad. To always be thoughtful and things like that. And sometimes it's really hard. And that person doesn't have to be your best friend.
So many people today believe eye for eye, tooth for tooth, so forth, so on. And that's in their everyday life and everyday language, their everyday actions between one another. That's a terrible way to be.
What's really heartbreaking is when you hear a parent say, well, I just can't love my son any longer because he's this, this, and this. And I said, no, you got to stop and think. You've got to love his soul. God tells us we got to search that soul out, continue to love and pray for it. But we don't have to condone his ways, and we need to stand up about his ways. We need to be right about it out of the scripture.
Because it rips my heart out when my child is wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It should. But you say much to him, he explodes. So I don't say much until I know there's a cooling off time. And it's a shame. When you have to identify each one's individual personality, and I can't remember that many. It's getting worse every day. You understand it, brother?
Well, and it took me years to understand that you're supposed to love the person, not what they do.
Exactly.
It took me forever to understand that, because I'm like, how can I love that person? But it's not the love of what they do, it's love the person is what God's asking.
When I graduated from college, which they almost had to change the grading in order to get me out, but yeah, no, I made it. I worked hard and made it, but it was tough because I didn't have the background to really do well in college. The education system, I won't mention. But you think about these things and you see so many people, even in college, struggling. And think, what? Where's the parents? They're not trying to teach these children, they're not trying to help these children. Whenever you have to have remedial classes for college level children, there's a problem. Parents are not doing their job, and schools are not doing their job. And I see so much of it when you're training someone to be a top-notch trainer, they have to be able to speak and speak well. And if you can't, I'm not paying you $60,000, $80,000 a year. Can't afford it. That is because they would be replacing me next. They will keep you from being ineffective. Remember that last statement there in Romans, 2 Peter 5 and 8. Unproductive, ineffective. Isn't that a shame? We allow ourselves to be ineffective in life. That took me a long time to learn too. Hard-headed, I know. Can't help it. The whole family is that way. So you see, we need to possess these qualities in an increasing measure. Not increasingly worse, but increasingly better. Why is that? Everybody says, well, I'm changing. Yeah, long way. So we need to look at this in our life. Let's move on. 2 Peter, oops, I doubled it. Yes, I make mistakes every day. Ask my wife. Yeah. Let's see here. So we're looking at this, and we can jump on into Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 3:16 through 17. Where Peter says, do not you know that the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwells in you? Isn't that going hand in hand with what we're talking about this morning? If God dwells in us, shouldn't we desire to emulate Christ and do a better job of meeting people and reaching people as much as we can, much as is within you? He didn't say you had to do it, go back beyond your abilities. He said, what? Much is within you. And the amazing thing, he's not expecting you to do something you can't do. At least I don't see any words to that. It says that. It says, if anyone defiles the temple of God, what's the temple of God? You know, people don't even know this. You are the temple of God. I, all of us. Sir?
Our body is a temple.
Amen. That's the key. How important is that? To know that we are the temple of God. Does it look like a temple to our friends or neighbors and our family?
Should.
I like that. You hit the nail right on the head. It should, but I noticed you left that little cliche there. Yeah. We don't. And so do we must struggle every day to do better. How many of you like to work harder, struggle more, and put out more energy? I'm listening. People don't like to do that.
I've got places since I retired.
Of course, we all do that. We naturally slow down. But whether you're at a job or you can't slow down. You always have to do a little better every day. You're been assigned a task to emulate Christ. Did Christ slow down?
That's what makes it so beautiful, LB, that we're all in, our temples all look different, but there's one common cause, and that's Jesus Christ and God. And that they ought to be able to see. And when we don't reflect our Savior and our God, the temple's not too bright. And we need to think about how we're going to keep this temple where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest part. Some people are gifted in meeting people and talking to people, but they don't keep their temple clean. Sexual immorality is the number one problem.
It says in verse 17, that any man that destroys the temple of God, God will destroy him.
That's right.
Thank you. This stuff.
It's amazing how little thought people give to keeping their minds and their bodies as the temple of God, and they allow the devil just to move in and take up residence.
That's it. They move in and they start changing your attitude. They start changing the way you think. They start changing how you behave yourself or act in front of the audience. The audience is the world. And so you changed in a negative way, which is going to say, oh, this guy over here, he thinks I'm a bad person. I'm going to be bad. You see a lot of that, you know. It's terrible. Pardon me, I'm trying to lift my voice.
Well, Paul here also reminds us that, in the last verse, that for God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. He tells us we need to be holy. We need to strive every day to be where we need to be that temple.
What does the writer Mark say in 12, 30 through 31?
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
You know, it's a shame it took me 70 and nearly 80 years to figure that out. excellent work. That's your brain minding the store. Your mind doesn't do that too well. That's your attitude toward everyone that you meet. Has to be Christ-like. It says, with your heart. Do you feel good about the person you just talked to? With your soul. Do you say something that's destroying your soul? And he's picked it up, or she's picked it up, and gonna run with it. This is the first commandment. And the second is like this. You shall, what's that word? Love, L-O-V, love. I know a lot of people who love to be bad.
Treat them like you only treated yourself.
Yeah, well, is that really what, I like it. That's true. We need to, you don't want to be slapped around, do you? You don't want to be mistreated or cursed. As I've told you once before, one side of my family were, I don't know if they knew any English other than the four-letter words that were spoken. And why are they rejecting?
They're rejecting God. If we take care of this first commandment, the second one should be easier.
That's right. But it's not. Because that's work. I don't know how many of you remember W. Gillis and Maynard. Work? What's that? Some people are totally in that tone or mood. I don't want to work. I'm just going to roll through life. How you going to roll through life? I'm just going to do my job. I said, that's not rolling through life. But yet you allow your personal attitude be like that. You do better in your job than you do by talking to other people. You lay out your best performing whatever task you're doing. But whenever it comes to conversation, they don't know who you are. They're confused. They see someone who loves their job, but has a tongue that's sharper than a two-edged sword, slicing them apart in the wrong way. Not using it to cut away bad. We're cutting away everything. And that's a travesty, isn't it? It's a travesty that we allow ourselves to do that. After all, God created us, as we all know. It's 1 John 5, 1-11. Whoever believes that Jesus Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves him, who forgot also him, who is begotten of him, by this we know what? By this we know that we love the children of God. Do we love the children of God? Do we love people to be children of God? Do we love our neighbor to be the child of God? I know you don't have to answer it, but you need to answer it in your own heart. Do you love to be the child of God?
Sometimes that's easier to say when you're sitting in church and around church people, and it's harder to say when you get out into the world because you try to be like everyone else, or you don't want people to notice that you do have a faith.
That's a good answer, because
What they're gonna
I
say.
remember when I used to do things like that, okay? I thought I had to copy them or emulate them so I could get along with them. I found out it doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah.
If you say something good, they're gonna say something derogatory. If you say something bad, they're gonna say something derogatory. So it doesn't matter. But why not be something good? Why not say something good, right, Pete? That's the key. We often, I'll just talk like them, I'll just behave like them.
But you know, it's not so much out there in the world with the working place, we do it in our homes. Like our
Yeah.
homes, like here,
Yes.
we're one way, but then when we go home, to our children, our spouses, siblings, we may talk completely different, whereas your faith shine.
Right.
You know, because, so it's not just the workplace.
It's one of the most difficult things to do. I still not very good at it sometimes when your child misbehaves with you, you know better. What do you do now? You have to still love them and hope they change.
But
And
you love
encourage
them
them
enough
to
to
change.
correct them.
Yes, but you
I
can
mean,
only go
that's
so
what
far.
you have to do, because nowadays, most parents don't correct. It's really not that big a deal, and it's not really hurting anything. But in the long run, yes, it does.
It does, but there again, we sometimes allow our temper to blow away the boundaries of what we should say to them, which causes more problems. And that's the key, the point I want you to take away this morning. We need to learn to present our bodies a living sacrifice acceptable to God. What's a living sacrifice? Go back and look in the Old Testament. What was the sacrifice to look like? Spotless, perfect. Are we perfect in God's eyes today? We can be.
We
We can
strive,
struggle and try, right?
we strive for that every day.
I love that word strive. That means hard work.
Done for it. Blood of Christ takes up where you both.
Is it? That's the key. So we see here that we do have responsibility. Then I'm gonna jump on down to Romans 3:9, and let love be without hypocrisy. What's that word mean?
It's two-faced.
Two-faced. Singleness, not singleness of love, but two-faced. We're two or three different people. I've seen people be multifaceted.
I think they have more than one personality.
I know they do.
Depends on who they're with.
Yeah, depends on who they're with. They're different to every person they're around. They go, I go,
Christ made it pretty plain when he was talking with the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Pretty plain. And he explained to them why they work.
Well, everybody knew what a Sadducee was. He didn't believe in going to heaven. He didn't believe in punishment. He didn't believe in any, what?
Didn't believe in angels.
Didn't believe in angels? What did he believe in then?
Themselves.
Money. Filthy lucre. And that's the trouble. Today we allow things and possessions and money to rule our lives. Do we not? Sometimes. And sometimes we catch ourselves occasionally doing that, even as Christians. I stopped at a place one time, and I won't tell you where. Good lesson, good singing, closed someone got up and said, hey, we need to talk about this couple that their house burnt down. I already had my billfold. And I didn't have it. A $20 bill, that was my gas money to get back home. And they were arguing about, well, is this family worthy of helping? Instead of trying to show the community, we are Christians.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity to bring them in. It's an opportunity to bring the whole community, and they say, hey, live there. They love to help and to take care of people.
Yeah,
And be like Christ.
we had a lady one time in her 90s. But basically, her family had abandoned her. And when we were talking about helping her, one of the elders said, we can't help her because she has nephews. Going back to the old King James Version. She has nephews. And since she has nephews, then you can't help her. I said, that's a total misnomer of what you're trying to accomplish.
That's right.
We're trying to help somebody that needs their medicines, you know, and things like that.
We all need to do a better job. I know I do. And that's why I teach. I'm teaching to myself because we can always be better. And that's the key.
Well, if the family doesn't help, that's on the family, that's not on the individual that needs the help. That's why we
That's
need to
right.
be the ones to reach out, even if they have family.
We need to step out because are we family? Aren't we a family of the human race? Aren't we Christians? Are we Christ-like? Oh, is it? We just failed because we didn't emulate Christ. Christ would have helped in some way. So there again, many times, do we really abhor what is evil? Turn on these TV shows just for 5 minutes and tell me your answer again. If you're not turning that button off in the first few seconds, you really don't abhor what's evil. Because there's a lot of it. That's a real shame. So emulating Christ is pretty tough business, isn't it? God never said it'd be easy. Was Moses' job easy? Go back and read if you think so. That man, he put his all into it. And you could take many of these characters throughout the Old Testament, and every one of them that God loved put their all into what they were doing for God.
You think Noah may have taken vacation?
I don't know how he did. I don't know how he did that.
Talk about a guy who did something really hard.
Wow. You know,
And the fate of the world was on his shoulders.
never built an ark. Or most people that then didn't even know what an ark was.
And right,
They never need one.
And here it is, he had to take care of his family, the animals, and build an ark.
And preach to the world.
And preach. Go look at that again. I ran across that one day and I said, oh my goodness.
And he had to keep it up for 120 years.
120 years. And I'm tired already.
But also in that story, we need to understand, he gave him 3 sons that helped him, and that he raised them in the sight of God, and they continue to work beside him all the way to the end.
That's right.
And that's a reflection on us as parents, that if we raise them, they will honor us, as God tells us, that our sons and daughters should honor their mother and father, and that they come back in their later years. I'm saying this on a personal note, when my grown children have now not do the duty call, but they call with sincerity, say, is there anything y'all need? Do I need to come and help you do this? So that's where in our later ages, our children come back to show us even more respect. As they grew up, they listened to us, and we finally see that something's coming back around that we did share. And Noah is just blessed that God gave him 3 strong young men to work beside him. Of course, they weren't young men when it was all finished, but he took it to the.
Have you noticed society today? They see someone's name and oh my goodness, I didn't know they were having problems. And these are family members often that say this. Why do we wait till we read somebody deceased, say, I should have helped? It's volumes. We can't. You say that to people and you don't really love anyone but yourself.
You know, if we don't share, like I said, I recently went to visitation for a cousin of mine. Everybody said, well, I didn't know he was sick. So I said, well, he didn't worry about you know. So we have to let that be known too. And I know a lot of people, that's hard for them to do, but I can say from personal experience, it's hard to do, but for people to pray for you and help you, they need to know your needs.
And there's a line there, I know, because, I don't want everybody to know how hard a certain person, maybe myself, is struggling. So sometimes we harm ourselves too by letting someone know, hey, I need help.
Could that be pride sometimes?
Yeah, I think that's
Pride.
Which,
How are we supposed to treat that? I want to do it myself. I've always done everything myself, and that's the way I was brought up and taught. So you have to do it yourself or it won't get done.
That's ego.
I'm sorry?
That's just ego. I mean, that's just you thinking that you're so much better, that you can handle everything.
Many times you're right, but sometimes there's no one out there that wants to help. And that's the travesty, because society has become so selfish. What did Christ say about selfishness? So many don't know who to turn to anymore. You need help or not? Sometimes we all do. But people see that we are to be teaching, and exhortation is teaching. He who gives with liberality, who leads with diligence, who shows mercy with cheerfulness. Wow, that's a real challenge there too. Sometimes I don't like to do something with cheerfulness to you. Isn't that a challenge? To be cheerful? That sure hurt. I don't want to go do that today. But we have to be cheerful about it, and we need to understand Jesus gave his life against all human complaints. His body hurt. You knew his heart was going, I can't believe these people do this to me. So we need to take a deeper look in our life and say, hey, it's okay to hurt just a little bit for other people. Jesus did. That's why he's reminding us that love be without hypocrisy. That one little brief statement says the volume. Time's up, thank you.
Hey there. How you doing? I'm making it. What about you? I can do it.
Springy and
Thank
I'm cold.
Oh, I bet you are.
There's a stop button on this thing. There's no stop button anymore. I'm hard. I guess I just close the window. Oh, there it is.
They moved it since the other day. I looked up.
Okay.